Welcome back, y'all. This is the Bluechip Breakdown, and I am your host, Bull. Today, we're going to be talking about UTEP just a little bit. We'll just give you like the overview of what their team is. We'll also be talking some about what Tennessee needs to do better moving forward, especially to make it to the college football playoffs. Now, I know most people aren't going to be watching this thing live, so on the rewind, whenever y'all watch this, please do make sure to like and subscribe. And if you are watching it live, please also make sure to like and subscribe. If you're in here live, we will get to your comments. We're going to do our best to try to touch on everybody's stuff. But I do want to go ahead and start this thing off with UTEP's defense versus Tennessee's offense. And what we're looking at right here is Tennessee's total offense, right? I mean, really, almost everything, right? Like we are ranked better than UTEP in. But let me also say this real quick, because UTEP plays in Conference USA. They're 2-8. Okay, so their record's not great. Their strength of schedule is like 124 or something like that. So you almost have to take, these rankings and stuff with a grain of salt. Like, let's just keep that in mind as we're moving forward. But Tennessee's total offense is ranked at number 12. UTEP's defense, or their total defense, is ranked at number 81. Tennessee's scoring offense is ranked at number 18. And then UTEP's total defense or scoring defense is ranked at number 99. So that right there doesn't look good. But the thing that might concern some Tennessee fans is that we are giving up sacks at a 2.3 sacks per game rate, okay, which is number 93rd in the country. Also, with some of this stuff, man, like, with the sacks, okay, we can like specifically talk about those sacks. There's a lot of teams that have the exact same sack rate, and I don't know exactly how they, rank it, but it's not necessarily as bad as what it might look like. Tennessee could very easily be at like number 70 something with the sacks. But anyway, UTEP is getting 2.5 sacks per game, so they're ranked at number 40th in the entire country. Now, on to the passing numbers. Tennessee's passing offense, it's been bad this season, okay? We will talk about that as we kind of move through this video, but it's ranked number 67, and then UTEP's pass defense is ranked number 58. Rushing for Tennessee, we're ranked number 10, and then UTEP is ranked number 21 in rush defense. Third down conversions, Tennessee is number 28, and UTEP is number 6 in third down conversions on defense. Red zone, Tennessee's number 109. That's really bad. But again, just kind of going back, like what we talked about with the sacks, because we missed so many field goals in the red zone. I forgot what game that was, but that right there messed us up in a very major way. And then UTEP is ranked at number 27, and then UTEP is ranked at number 6, and then on down to the 27 high. So on down to the turnovers, Tennessee's ranked number 59 in turnovers given up by the offense, and then UTEP is ranked at number 52 in turnovers gained by their defense. So I will tell y'all this real quick, man. UTEP, they got a pretty solid defense. Really, UTEP from top to bottom, they are a well-coached team. There's not a whole lot of talent on their roster, but they play hard. They're going to blitz. I'm talking about like a lot. They run that 3-3-5. And we will see some of the stuff that Arkansas did. We'll see some of the stuff that Georgia did. Most of the teams that run 3-3-5s and, run it well, we will see all of that type of stuff. They will bring blitzes from different levels. So whether that's with the linebackers or, with the safeties especially, they love to bring those safety blitzes. So it can present some challenges just in knowing who to pick up in pass pro. We're hoping, okay, that our Volunteers are focused on this game. I don't think that this is a game that Tennessee just looks straight ahead to Vandy. Like, I don't think that at this point in the week, now I could be off on this, but I think that UTEP can present enough problems just based off of their schemes on offense and defense that we have to game plan for them. Like we have to really be sound because they can bring a whole lot of different looks to us. So let's move on over, right? Let's talk about UTEP's offense versus Tennessee's defense. Now, the thing about it is UTEP's offense really is not that strong, right? I mean, you can see right here, their total offense is ranked number 114. Tennessee's total defense is ranked number 9. And then UTEP's scoring offense is ranked number 121. Tennessee's scoring defense is ranked number 8. They're giving up 2.3 sacks per game. That's 94th. That's right behind us in sacks given up per game. And Tennessee is getting 2.2 sacks per game on defense. That's ranked at number 55. As far as their passing offense is ranked number 87, and Tennessee's passing defense is ranked number 29. Their rushing offense is ranked number 98, and Tennessee's rushing defense is ranked number 7. The third down conversions, they're ranked number 122, and Tennessee's ranked number 3. Their red zone offense is almost dead last, so this is out of 133 teams that ranked number 132. That is absolutely horrible, and Tennessee is ranked at number 10. on down to the turnovers. They're ranked number 91. Tennessee is ranked number 39. So the whole thing here is that their offense, it really isn't. It's not operating well. You know what I mean? I believe that this coaching staff, most of them anyway, came from Austin Peay. Austin Peay played Tennessee pretty close last season. Their offense, just in watching it on film, and I didn't watch a ton of film on UTEP. I did watch enough to get an idea of who they are. But their offense is very similar to what Tennessee does, and I'm talking about with the formations, with the different routes that they run. The one thing that I will say though is that they run more outside zone than Tennessee does. They also have drag concepts and stuff like that. I watched them versus Kennesaw State, and man, it was one of their first drives. I'm sitting there looking at it, and I'm like, okay, they're getting into that 12 personnel, which for the most part they will run 11 personnel. So they like to spread the field out. I don't know about the tempo, but they do love to they love to spread the field out. But they were running 12 versus Kennesaw State. And I saw them doing all the things that I wanted Tennessee to do versus Georgia, which is, man, sticking to that running game. They ran a lot of outside zone. If a play worked, they would run it back to back until Kennesaw State found a way to stop it. And, they got into that, play action. Okay, throw it on a fade, like really quick. Get the football out of your hands quickly. And they scored a touchdown from like the 35-yard line. So those are the types of things that I want to see from Tennessee's offense moving forward. And it's frustrating to me just because I think that with Coach Heupel, I think really with most of the coaches that are coaching on this level, there's some pride. Okay, like Heupel has an offense that he wants to try to showcase, but I hate to keep on talking about Georgia, but that game that was big for us because we will get to the playoff stuff in just a second, but Coach Heupel very easily could have ran that 12 personnel, run the football, and then just, step back, 3-step drop, play action, and throw a fade ball. We've got 6'5" wide receivers on the outside, and Georgia's secondary was not good in one-on-one coverage. They're not really great in coverage, period, point blank. But I think that we wanted to try to show all the bells and whistles of our offense, and that's frustrating to me because, we talked about that after the Oklahoma game. Or maybe it was after the NC State game. It might have been after both of them, where I said, look, this offense, at that time, I said, we're not opening things up quite enough. Now, versus Georgia, we really did open things up. I've seen people talking about, well, Tennessee really, we could have opened things up more. Our playbook isn't that big because we like to run tempo. Some of that is true, but I think that our playbook isn't nearly as small as people think. We have to stick to what works for us because football, as complicated as it can be, it's a very simple game. It's kind of like chess, right? Like you could start a chess game off and, maybe try to beat somebody with 5 moves, if you can do that, beat them with 5 moves. But at the same time, if you've never played that, player, then you want to at least try to set up those moves to say, okay, we're going to try to set some stuff up just in case we have to get more complicated with things. But if we can keep it simple and win, let's just keep it simple and win. It doesn't feel like Tennessee has done that enough. It's like in the games that, maybe we should have opened things up just a little bit more instead of trying to hide everything. We kept it very close to the vest to save it for the game versus Georgia, which we ultimately lost. And having coached before, I can tell you that usually does not work. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe save a couple of things, but you need to put everything out there on film to make teams get ready for it. And you also have to see how your team performs in a live game situation because it's going to be way different in practice than it ever is in a game time situation. I think that there are things within our coaching staff. It's not because of our roster. It's not because of the talent on this team. It's the way that we're managing games. It's the way that we're calling plays that has put Tennessee in this situation. And some people might think, okay, well, Bull is just being a homer for Tennessee because he hates Georgia. Yeah, I do hate Georgia, but you could say the exact same thing versus Arkansas. Again, we talked about NC State and also Oklahoma. We should have blown Oklahoma out. NC State, we did blow them out, but we could have beat them worse. So my point here is Tennessee has got to understand, look, we've got to do enough to win. And if it's a team that we know that we're way better than physically, we got to beat them by a very large margin. And then, we have to kind of put some things out there on film and still have some new wrinkles, getting ready for games like Georgia or, Alabama or Florida, some of those big time games. We have to add some things in there And I just don't feel like Tennessee has done enough of that. And the reason that it frustrates me is because I look at Mississippi State's offense. We talked about that in the Mississippi State week. I said, man, look, I like what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like, this is the exact same offense, but they've got more wrinkles to it because we can go back to what UTEP does. They run more drags than Tennessee does. They run more outside zone than Tennessee does, more stretch plays. Why aren't we doing that? Like, I have absolutely no idea why we wouldn't do it. And a lot of people are also talking about Tennessee's tempo. Well, I've said this for, quite some time. To be able to run tempo, number one, people have to be in shape to run it. And I think at this point we are in shape. We weren't necessarily in shape previously, right? So now that we are in shape, we can run more tempo. I think that we did a good job, especially early on versus Georgia, running that tempo. But the tempo is not what's going to help Tennessee win necessarily, because tempo is more of a gimmick. It's more of, hey, our guys aren't physically better than your guys are, so we're going to just try to go fast and keep everything very simple and try to win that way. But we've now been in the SEC. Coach Heupel, his staff, this offense has been in the SEC for what, 4 or 5 years. There's enough game film out there. There's enough data out there, and they have so much information that they will know all of the tendencies that Tennessee has on offense. So whenever you go fast, you have a lot less time as a play caller to think about what you're going to call. So the less time that you have to think, the more that you're playing more checkers and not chess, and you're getting back to those tendencies. To me, it could be easier to stop doing things that way. But at the same time, these are human beings, right? So people get tired, not just on the defense, but also on the offense. So I think that there's so many, moving pieces to it. I don't think that the tempo is the problem because we've run it in spurts. I think that that's perfect. But at some point, you've got to kind of slow things down and get into the proper play call and be able to open things up. It's very difficult to open things up whenever you're moving fast. Now, back to Tennessee's playbook, okay? I've talked about it. I think 12 personnel is Tennessee's best personnel this season because we have a very strong running attack. Our offensive line does a great job in run blocking, and our tight ends do a beautiful job also in run blocking. But we can also flex them out within that 12 personnel if we want to start to run tempo. And then we can start to pick on some of the mismatches and open spots on the defense. And, Tennessee just really hasn't – we just really have not done that enough. Again, back to Coach Heupel, back to most coaches at this level, having those egos. Coach Heupel has got to understand who this team is, right? We are a 12 personnel team that wants to get the one-on-one matchups on the outside with some big wide receivers and run the football, and every now and then 3-step drop, throw it deep. Now, clearly, you have to kind of spread the field out some, but I think 60% of the time, Tennessee needs to probably be in that 12 personnel because that is our best personnel. So those are, most of my thoughts with this offense. And I think that that's the main problem that Tennessee has. Our defense did not do a good job versus Georgia last weekend, especially in adjusting in the second half. Whenever we saw that our front four, for whatever reason, was not getting pressure, if bringing 5 is not getting pressure, you have to start to bring more. You've got to come up, play that zero coverage, and blitz the hell out of folks. I don't know why we're scared to do that, right? Like, put the pressure on them. We've got to dictate what they're going to do and not let teams so much dictate what Tennessee's going to do. But, that's pretty much it for me. Let me get to some of these comments because I do see we have some in here. Let me see what we got. So right here from Lamones Jr. What's going on, buddy? Says, what's good, Bull? Go Big Orange. 100%. Right here from my dog, Timmy G. What's going on, Tim? Says, good morning, Bull. All right, so it's good to see that some people are in here. Again, man, if y'all watching this off of the rewatch, just, leave your thoughts and comments down in the comments section. But that's pretty much where I'm at with it. Tennessee at this point, we've got to show improve because we lost 2 games. I don't think that we should have lost either of them. I guess, that Georgia game, that's one that if you lose that one, right, if you hadn't lost the game up to that point, and if you lose that one, it's not that big of a deal. Tennessee's still in a great spot. But since we lost to Arkansas, a team that we should have never lost to, and Arkansas is not a bad team. They're actually ranked higher than Tennessee is in total offense. So, they can do some good things. They were missing, especially that running back Jackson. They missed him for, I think, like a month or something. So he makes a big difference in their offense. We saw, that they were pretty close versus Texas. But either way, the whole point there is that cannot lose games that we're not supposed to lose. We got UTEP coming up this weekend. We got to win this game by a very large margin. Like I said, they will be very well coached. They can present some issues to this offense. I think that their defense is I think that their offense is okay. It's very similar to what Tennessee's is, but our defense should be able to eat. If you look at those guys up front, they're not very strong up front. You know what I mean? Like they're not physically capable to stick with Tennessee. So this is not a game that we think, or at least I think, that Tennessee should lose. Like that's not even any thought for me. It's about how much can we win by. And Tennessee, I think, needs to win this game by 50 points. This needs to be like a 56-0 sort of a game. But let me show y'all some of their stats right here. Just from everybody, right? So with their quarterbacks, you see, wow, boy, there's a lot of people that have thrown passes. So we're seeing wide receivers in there, also seeing punters. So we got to watch out for the fakes in this game. We got to watch out for all the trick plays and stuff like that, because clearly that's something that they like to do. But their starting quarterback, Skylar Locklear, 67%, which is really good. A lot of the stuff that they do is going to be predicated off of some, quick game stuff, just getting people open, getting the football to them. But he's also got 9 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, which is absolutely horrible. Saying he's only been sacked 13 times. Now let's come on down to their rushing. That running back up at the top, Jackson. He's about 5'8", 205 pounds, but he does run hard. Like we said, that outside zone, that's something that Tennessee struggled to stop versus Mizzou last season. I think that actually this year's team is a lot better at stopping outside zone, and maybe not quite as good at stopping the inside zone as last season's team was. But we just have to make sure that we're able to dominate up front, which I see no reason that we can't do that. I mean, I saw Kennesaw State getting pushback on UTEP's offensive line, so I know that we should be able to do the exact same thing. It's probably going to be tough to get sacks in this game, though, and the reason that I say that is because, again, man, they want to get the football out of their hands quickly, so I just want to touch on that real quick. They do a lot of jet sweeps, pre-snap movements, things like that. As far as their wide receivers go, the guy up at the top, Odom, he's got 7 touchdowns. I think he's like 5'8". He's number 6. He's a smaller guy. Really, all of their players, they're more of like slot wide receiver body types. They're like 6 feet and under. So we shouldn't have too much of a problem guarding them down the field. It's going to be more about coming up, making tackles in open space, open field, which I don't think Tennessee's going to struggle with versus this team by any means. Now, they do have a pretty solid tight end, Marcus Vincent. You can see that he's got 2 touchdowns on the season. He does a pretty solid job. They don't use him as much. Their tight ends are more in there to, block, things like that. Let's come on down to their defense. Right here, this is actually ordered by the sacks. So Maurice Westmoreland, he's leading the team in sacks with 4.5. He's number 0. And then he's a senior. And then number 0, Kyron Duhan, he's got 4 sacks on the season. So they do have some guys that have gotten after the quarterback this season, but I don't think that the individual talent from their players is what's going to hurt Tennessee. It's going to be, do we know who to pick up in their different blitz schemes and things like that? You can also see several safeties with multiple sacks from this team. So they're bringing it from the second and third level, like we talked about. But, this is really not, like I said, man, their defense will play hard, okay? They're going to be very sound, fundamentally speaking, but there's not a lot of playmakers here necessarily. I also think that their cornerbacks have good size, they have good length. So, will it be an issue for our wide receivers? I mean, it shouldn't be, right? It definitely shouldn't be. But I am, I'm disappointed in what our wide receivers have done throughout, the course of this season. They have not nearly played up to par. We have guys up there that are big, they're fast, they're strong, they're physical. We got to get them going more. And if I'm on the coaching staff for Tennessee, anywhere, you know what I'm saying, I'm going to sit inside of one of those meetings and I'm going to say, hey, listen, we got to, in practice versus UTEP, we know that we can kind of do what we're good at, but we got to start to work on these deep balls. And I would line up all of the wide receivers on both sides. And I say, look, Nico, we're going to run fades, okay? 3-step drop, fake that handoff, throw it up. And until every single wide receiver on this team catches 10 in a row. And I don't want to hear nothing about getting tired. Until everyone can catch 10 fade balls in a row consecutively, okay, we are not going to stop doing this, because we've got to find a way to be more accurate down the field, and we've got to find a way for those guys to cover or to make catches down the field. And I want people covering them. I want them going up against a real defense. It's not going to be live versus Nico, but that's just the way that I would do it, because we are not operating down the field nearly enough with this offense. There's not enough explosive plays, and there's absolutely no excuse, because people are open. They're either not making catches or Nico is missing them. And it's not on an all-the-time basis, because we're not throwing enough of those passes either. I think that the staff lost confidence in doing that. If we want to be a playoff team, what Tennessee has got to show over the course of these next couple of weeks is that we can throw the football down the field and, we can make things happen. We have to be able to stretch things out because people are starting to say, well, this offense, it's not that good. But what I know, okay, what I can tell you for sure from watching film is that our offense really is better than a lot of the Big Ten offenses, okay? I think that the Buckeyes, they have a pretty solid offense, but, they can't run the football well, so that's going to make them very stagnant once they get into playoff play or, once they, face a team that's actually good, which they haven't really seen. I think Penn State's decent, but they're not a good team. If Penn State was in the SEC, they would probably, be, 7, maybe 8 wins. They will lose several games inside this conference. It's not, they have 0 ranked wins, right? I mean, like, it's not like going up against SEC competition by any means. The SEC is head and shoulders above anybody else. And the Big Ten would be second. And then, outside of the Big Ten, everybody else to me is, it's not even close. So to say that Tennessee's offense going up against SEC defenses is just average and it's not championship caliber, to me, that's very laughable. And that shows a whole lot of bias towards the Big Ten. And people who are saying that are Big Ten people. So said all that just to say, we've got to show that we can stretch the field. Okay, we've got to show that a lot more moving forward. Let me get to some more of these comments. Right here. So we've got Eric B. Jones says, what's up, Bull? I agree. Tennessee can look over UTEP. Yeah, Tennessee should skull drag UTEP, but Tennessee's can't look over them. Yeah, so excellent points. Yeah, I don't think that we can look over them just because, again, man, they've got some things that they can do offensively and defensively that could present some problems, really more so with their defense. We have to look very sharp over the course of these next couple of weeks. Now, at this point, right, this is only, Tuesday? Probably haven't flipped the page to Vandy just yet, but at some point this week, I'm sure that the team will flip the page and start looking at Vanderbilt. So I am expecting that. Now, let's get into I want to talk a little bit more about Tennessee's playoff chances. So right here, man, this is what we looked at yesterday, and this is the SEC rankings. Tennessee's 4th in the SEC. We need several people to lose. Okay, we will also look at the games, the matchups this weekend. But I think that if Tennessee can just finish in the top 4 in the SEC, we have a good shot to make it. So at this point, we know that Texas and A&M will play, and whoever wins that game is going to have the upper hand. That's going to be the playoff team. Whoever loses that game probably will not make it to the playoffs, especially if it's A&M. So, we need for A&M to lose the next probably couple of games. Georgia, they're pretty much locked in. I think that they will make it to the college football playoffs. Unless they lose to Tech. I could see Tech beating them because Georgia still isn't great at stopping the run. They're not good at running the football, and Tech is good at both of those things. And they'll do more of what we wanted for Tennessee to do, which is stick to the run, right? Stick to the run versus these guys. There's no need to do anything else and bring the daggum house. Force them to make some throws under pressure. Terrible game plan, especially in the second half by our staff. But then also, I think Alabama, it's going to be tough for them to lose. We kind of talked about them before. Ole Miss, man, they're playing up against Florida this weekend. We definitely need for them to lose. If Ole Miss loses Tennessee, Tennessee's almost guaranteed to make it to the college football playoffs. As far as I'm concerned, the problem is going to be that the people voting on this stuff, man, there's a lot of bias towards the Big Ten. And actually, I'm going to pull this up for y'all real quick because I want for y'all to understand the difference in the strength of schedules for Tennessee versus a lot of these Big Ten teams. In the Big Ten, there's only 2 teams that have beat any ranked opponents, okay? That is Ohio State and that's Oregon. You know what I'm saying? And Oregon beat Ohio State, and then Ohio State beat Penn State. You could kind of, I would say that, yeah, Penn State should be a ranked team, but they're definitely not, they're definitely not like world beaters. I think that they're ranked too high. So we can look at this right now, okay? So we're seeing that Oregon's strength of schedule is 43rd. There's not a team in the SEC, if I'm not mistaken, up to this point that has a strength of schedule that's lower than like 38 or 35. So that tells you a lot about them right there. They are undefeated, okay? They haven't played anybody, but they're undefeated. So for them to be number 1, not going to be too upset. Georgia's strength of schedule is still number 1. I disagree with that. I think that Florida should be number 1, but that's neither here nor there at this point. Ohio State, they're at number 28. Penn State is at 35. Texas, okay? Texas is now at number 38, but Indiana is at number 106. So they're undefeated, okay, but they haven't played anybody. They have not even come close to beating a ranked team. They have Ohio State this weekend. If they lose, it's out of my mind. There's no reason that they should be in the top 12 or, even close to it. They should be outside of the top 15, but we'll see what happens with that, right? Alabama there at number 16. BYU is at 53. And then Miami's at 54. Tennessee is sitting right now at number 18, right? So our strength of schedule is a lot better than all the Big Ten teams. Like it's not even close, right? So we've lost 2 games. A lot of those teams have lost 1, but they haven't played anybody. Tennessee has actually played a schedule. And then our strength of record, where is that at? Strength of record, we're sitting at number 10. So that looks pretty good. Now let's look at Ole Miss. They're sitting at 29 overall strength of schedule, and their strength of record is 12th. Texas A&M is sitting at 25th for the strength of schedule. Their strength of record obviously is at number 11. Notre Dame, that's another team that if they lose, I think they're playing up against USC. Maybe not this weekend, but at some point, probably the last game. Okay, they're at 82nd. There's no reason that they're even in the conversation. It's out of my mind because they lost to Northern Illinois at home. That should have disqualified them off the rip. But it's Notre Dame. This stuff is all about money. I'm telling y'all that right now. I've told y'all that all season long. They're going to put in the teams that will generate the most revenue at the end of the day. So we're almost just, I would say kind of like wasting time even looking at this. Another team is Boise State, because Boise State being that group of 5 team, that could end up getting in, and, they're being ranked so high. At this point, we see that their strength of schedule saying that there's no way. Okay, yeah, saying that it's 76. So that makes sense, but their strength of record being at 15th, I tend to disagree with that. They don't really have anybody left. I know that they've got Wyoming, and then I think they've got like Oregon State or something at the very end. So they're not going to be playing up against anybody. But if they fall, that's going to be big for Tennessee. And really, those are the only teams. Oh, and then SMU. SMU has a chance to win the ACC. And right now, their strength of schedule is 86. Their strength of record is 14th. Clemson, their strength of schedule is 46. Their strength of record is 17th. So, those are 2 teams right there. I don't know where Pitt is at, but Pitt might be able to still maybe make it to the ACC championship. But, I mean, it's just this whole thing is very inconsistent. We'll scroll up a little bit. We'll also look at Army, because Army's strength of schedule, well, it's dead last. So it's 133rd. I don't think that they've lost a game at all still this season. Their strength of record is number 19th. If we're going to put Indiana as, highly ranked as they are, then Army should be ranked a lot higher than they are. Okay, so let me pull that up for y'all real quick. What the current, okay, this is not, obviously it's going to change tonight, but this is how things look right now. Army was ranked at 24th. Indiana is ranked at 5th. I disagree with that much of a difference. I think that if Indiana is going to be a top 5 football team, then Army should be at least a top 15 football team. So there is a ton of bias. Okay, there's a ton of bias with these guys. But let me get to some more of these chats right here, y'all. Because I do want to kind of focus on that. So Eric B. Jones is saying that, Bull, I think Tennessee should start watching Vandy film. Not saying look over UTEP, but see what will work on Vandy and see what Vanderbilt isn't good at on offense. So that's an excellent point, Eric. And one thing that I can say, whenever you're operating on this level of college football, what you're going to have are several people that's all that they do. Like, they're not even looking at necessarily the current week's game. They're looking at the upcoming game. So there are people who are going to be, breaking down film. That's going to be noticing all the tendencies, everything, very, very small things too. And then once we actually get to the point where we're going to flip the page to Vandy, they've, the coaching staff has all the information to kind of work with, and they can give that to the players. And it's all about how they present that information to the players. Will they understand it? I'm sure that they will. But Vandy will be, I think that they'll be a challenge. But Tennessee needs to try to win that game by as many points as possible, man. If we could win that game by like 40 or 50 points, I'm not saying that will happen because Vanderbilt is a good team. But if we can do that, that also will help us out, because that margin of victory, the eye test, all that matters obviously to the people voting on this stuff. But I think even more so, if you have the Big Ten logo on your jersey, that's what means the most to these guys, because they are being extremely biased and it's not consistent with the rankings by any means. So Green Wave, what's going on, dog? Says, let's go. We in the house. Let's see what else Green Wave has to say. The Big Ten is trash, though. They really are. I mean, if you look, if you talk about, right, if you talk about any of those Big Ten teams, there's not a single solitary Big Ten team that can come into the SEC, I think, and not lose at least 2 games. And that's based off of me watching. That's based off of how their offenses operate, how their defenses operate. They're going to struggle inside of this league with anybody's schedule. I don't care whose it is. It could be some of the easier schedules. The easiest schedules in the SEC are significantly harder than the hardest, or, than most of the schedules inside of the Big Tens. So, my whole point there is, dude, it's if this was fair, if this was really about the most deserving teams, the SEC would get 5 teams in off the top. Like it's not even close. So it's very frustrating. And like I've said before, I feel like we need to just implement the NFL's model where we go to 32 teams and just literally everything that they do, let's do the exact same thing because it's proven it works. People aren't having to vote on stuff. It's based off of who you actually beat. You know what I'm saying? And hey, people will get left out, but I personally don't care. You know what I'm saying? I don't. They need to do their own thing because they're hindering us. Teams like Indiana have no business being in the top 32 teams in this country. They're hindering us. They're taking away from Tennessee's opportunities. They shouldn't even be up there. Who else is up there? SMU. Right now, they're not showing me a doggone thing. Boise State has not shown me a thing. Kansas State, that's another team. There's a lot of teams up here in the top 25 that shouldn't even be in the way. Let's just roll with the best 32 programs that have all the resources and stuff in this country, and then let's see who can win things out. That makes a lot more sense to me. I'm sick of being pushed out by teams that we all know that if we played them anywhere on the face of this planet, we beat them by like 35 points. Come on, stop it. And it's not even just us. There's several other teams that are being pushed down because of some of these scrub ball clubs. Green Wave also says Big Ten is a silly joke. Too bad the CFP committee has an absurd metric for judging strength of schedule. I would love to see what the actual strength of schedule is, because I don't know if they're going off of ESPN stuff. They can't be, because if they were, then this wouldn't make sense. It doesn't make sense either way. But we'll see if they try to get it fixed tonight, because a lot of people have pushed back on it. Eric B. Jones also says that he agrees with me that Indiana hasn't played a top 25 team this season, and if they lose to Ohio State, they should be out. I don't know whether the CFP committee will put them out if they lose, but they should. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't have a lot of faith that they will. Some people are saying, look, if Indiana gets blown out, then they're going to be out of the playoff picture. I disagree. I just disagree based off of what they've done, what they've shown us up to this point. I don't think that they'll be out. I think that they're going to get in. The Big Ten gets in 4, the SEC gets in 4. Now, Tennessee's got to be a top 4 team in the SEC to make it, obviously. But there's still a whole lot of football left. It's only 2 weeks, but there's a lot of games with playoff implications. And we will pull that up here in just a second, just for this weekend. SEC football says, I think Tennessee is 2 years away. Continue stacking these classes. Yeah, so that's an interesting point. I don't think that Tennessee is 2 years away by any means, because Tennessee's roster this season is good enough. Like, we've shown that whatever team that we've gone up against, we've run the football. So we're good enough offensively in the trenches. Now, versus Georgia, we gave up, they're saying 5 sacks. So I don't even think that, outside of those 5 sacks, it wasn't a whole lot of pressure being put on Nico. Now, Georgia blitzed the whole bunch. I put that more on our staff and not calling plays to get things going and not sticking to the running game more. If we stuck to the running game more, then, Georgia can't necessarily pin their ears back as much as they did and play the type of coverages that they did. But if you look at all of our skill guys, man, on the outside, we have people on paper who should be able to get things going. I have no idea what's going on with our wide receivers. I just don't. But Nico played well. He tried to make some plays. People are dropping passes in some critical situations. Our defense has been lights out outside of that Georgia game. Again, I put that on the coaching staff. We just got out coached. Why the hell aren't we blitzing more? Like, why? Why are we scared of Carson Beck, of an offense that we know can't run the football, and they've thrown a whole bunch of interceptions passing the football? Either blitz more or drop 8 more, but don't just only bring 4 and only bring 5, especially after you saw that it wasn't working. Back to the coach's egos, want to win the ball game your way. No, we just need to win the ball game. We don't care how we win it. I don't give a daggum if we quarterback sneak the whole damn game and still win. As long as we win, we win. Like, how we win doesn't really, or it would not have really mattered at that point. But now at this point, how we win definitely matters. So we have to spread things out. We've got to get the offense going, especially down the field, to pass that eye test and to get more people feeling like they want to vote for us. But that's, these are all excellent points from everybody. Green Wave says the Army is trash. No question about that. Army's trash, but I think Indiana is pretty trash too. That's my whole point. I think that Indiana, they're a decent ball club, but compared to the real contenders, I don't think that they can, I don't think that they have a leg to stand on. I don't think that they'd probably be pushing to make it to a bowl game if they played in the SEC. Give them the easiest SEC schedule. They're not undefeated. They've already lost 4, maybe 5 ball games. It's different. I'm telling y'all, it's different. And really, it's not even close. Let me get to Volcano. What's going on, Volcano? Says, Bull, you think Indiana gets in? I do personally. I do, just at this point. And it's not because I think that they deserve to get in. It's just because I'm looking at how these people are voting. There's a whole lot of Big Ten people up there, and we all know that Michigan cheats. Okay, Michigan, they're cheaters. And the head of this whole deal, right? The chair, he's a Michigan guy, right? So I mean, come on, like we've got to get away from this human error. We can't keep letting people vote on this stuff. And the only way that we can get away from that is to minimize all the teams that we're kind of pulling from. We've got to minimize that, make everybody play some sort of a set schedule where almost everybody's playing everybody. If not, I mean, you can't play everybody. But again, just like the NFL, where you're going to play teams from the NFC and AFC and, equal amounts. And whoever has the best records make it to the playoffs. Doesn't that make sense, y'all? Like, doesn't that make more sense than doing it this way? I'm sick of this. I'm sick of it. It's pissing me off. Eric B. Jones is saying that, like I've said, if Indiana played Tennessee, Ole Miss, even LSU on a neutral field, who would win all the SEC teams would skull drag Indiana? I agree with that 1,000,000%. Eric, that's exactly what we're talking about here. Green Wave is also saying that the College Football Playoff Committee, Matt, says that a G5 team that is 5-5 is as good as an SEC team that is 5-5. Very purposely flawed math. I agree. That's the other part of it, is that understanding that there's a lot more Big Ten people that's voting on this stuff. You know that they're trying to slight the SEC. Like, you just know that. And common sense tells you these teams are not inside of these different conferences. The level of competition is it's drastically different. You can look at the stadiums, all right, like on every single Saturday and see that. You can look at how much money is put into it. And now we're in the NIL era. The teams with the most money to spend in NIL are going to be getting the best players. I would say about 95% of the time. And that's not to say that some of these lower tiered schools don't have good coaches, but man, we're talking about drastic differences with college football. It's a drastic difference in the level of talent. So yeah, I mean, it's all this stuff to me, man. It's a joke. Really is. SEC football is saying, I was just totally shocked we didn't get pressure on Beck. I was too. I kind of touched on this earlier in the week. It might have been yesterday that Georgia took 71, who was their starting left tackle for most of the season. He didn't play at all, but that was the main guy that was giving up pressure. Okay, Ole Miss had 5 sacks versus Georgia. Probably 3 of them, you know what I'm saying? 3.5 of them probably came from that left tackle. He was terrible. He didn't play. I think it was 57 who played in his spot. He played a lot better. Also, I think that Tate Ratledge, as much as I can't stand Georgia, that he is a dude. Okay, as a Falcons fan, I would love to draft him because he's very strong. He's a very good offensive lineman. He's one of the best offensive linemen in the entire country. He looked a lot healthier this week, right? He's been back for, I think, maybe 2 or 3 weeks. He looked a lot healthier. And, little things like that make a difference. This is a game of inches. But I still feel like we should have gotten at least 1 sack. We were getting pressure, but we didn't get any sacks. My biggest thing is always going to be about the coaching. If you see that the scheme's not working, the play calling's not working, buddy, switch it up. Like, you can switch it up. You can bring more pressure. It's perfectly fine. As a matter of fact, it would have been great for us. So I'm so angry at our staff right now. I'm not too angry at our players because I think that for the most part, really outside of the offensive line, really outside of the line on defense and our wide receivers, man, we played well. We were down. And really, too, I didn't show this to y'all yesterday, but we had people open down the field sometimes. But Nico was looking on one side of the field and Georgia was bringing pressure. So I'm not too mad at him either for, hey, look, I got to go to the quick, shorter stuff. We had people wide open running down those seams and one-on-one coverage. Why not, as a coach, see it and say, hey, let's throw it up for grabs more, right? Let's throw it up for grabs more. If we have to do that 7, 8 times in a daggone ball game, that's fine because the odds should tell you that even if you only hit 2 of them, that's 2 touchdowns, man. That's 2 touchdowns. Like, why not do that more? So we'll see if Tennessee tries to do that more. I think that, too, I might have touched on this earlier, but I think that our offense had a lot more wrinkles versus Georgia than we had the entire season. There was a lot of stuff underneath that looked good from a route combination perspective. That's fine. Once that starts to work, now you can throw it down the field or, either stick to the run, do the underneath stuff that's working. Talking about drags, we need to run a whole lot more drags. And then, okay, once teams start to come up off of the run, off of the underneath stuff, it's easy to take the one-on-one shots down the field. That's easy. So I'm so frustrated with how the with how the coaching staff operated last weekend. I'm going to go ahead and take this down. So this is from Dustin Young. What's going on, Dustin? Ohio State is 5-14-1 all-time versus SEC, 0-3 since 2020. Excellent numbers right there. Thank you for bringing that to us. Penn State is 18-23 all-time. Most taking place during Joe Pa's tenure. Those are some really good points because we saw what Ole Miss did to Penn State last season. And Ole Miss was not nearly as good last year as they was this season. Now, I could also say the Penn State's a better football team this year, but I don't think that they're that much better than they were last season. You know what I'm saying? They're still, to me, the same question marks that I had last year I have with this team. I think that their quarterback operates a little bit better, but their defense took some major steps back. The pass rush isn't nearly as good as it was last season. They had probably like a top 3 pass rush last year, and they really didn't do, they got blown out versus Ole Miss. So I think that there's so many things that point towards, the truth is the SEC is a much better conference from top to bottom. We do deserve more teams to be in the college football playoffs. SEC football says Tennessee would beat Indiana by 20. I think very easily. Very, very easily we would beat them by 20. And I'm not saying that as a homer. I'm saying that based off of the difference in talent level, because Tennessee's roster, I think, is very talented. If you look at it on paper, if you're basing off of the star rankings and all that, it's not going to be as talented as, I would say maybe the top third of the SEC. But we have guys that should be able to get things done, that are big, that are fast, that are strong, that should be physical. I'm very disappointed with our wide receiver group this season. They need to pick it up. I'm not going to blame this on Coach Pope, but he is the coach, so he's got to find a way to get it out of those guys. If you got to play some freshmen, play the damn freshmen. Like, we need to play to win, and not just to win, but to blow teams out for the next 2 games over the course of this season. I don't think that we're doing that. If guys can't, live up to the moment, then their ass needs to be on the damn bench. That's just what it is. And look, I love all of our players, but this is crunch time now. We don't have time for, this elementary school stuff. Volcano says, you think if Texas loses to A&M, are they out? I don't know. I've seen people saying that. I guess it would really all depend on what Texas A&M does, I guess, and Texas next week or this upcoming week, what they do this weekend. Because if A&M beats Auburn, then they're still going to be, they're probably just going to continue to kind of like move up in those rankings. And then if Texas loses to them, they wouldn't have any ranked wins except for Vandy's not even ranked. So they would have 0 ranked wins. So should they be in? No. But like I said, it's all about money. Excuse me. And Texas generates money. So wouldn't be surprised if they end up getting in there anyway. They were ranked higher than Tennessee last weekend. Let me see. Do I have that up here? Okay, yeah, no, so I don't have that up here for y'all. But they were ranked higher than Tennessee last weekend, and Tennessee had a much stronger strength of record than Texas did. There was no reason for them to be ranked higher. So I can't call it, y'all. We'll see tonight. If things don't change tonight with the voting, then I don't have a whole lot of faith that this is going to be like a fair shake for SEC teams, especially not for Tennessee, because they've shown that they do not like Tennessee. Eric B. Jones says, okay, he's talking SEC football, so we'll skip past that one. Greenwave says that the playoff committee head asked Stallions how to place the SEC. Hey, that is so funny, but I think that that's true. I'm telling you, like, I'm not a big, thinking that everyone's out to get us sort of a guy, but I see things for what they actually are. At least I try to. And it's pretty obvious, man. It's pretty obvious that this stuff is not being ranked fairly. Rhonda Leverett says, hey, Bull, what about Notre Dame? They're not even in a conference. That's an excellent point. So with that being said, and I am going to get to your question, let me pull this right back up with the strength of schedules. Is this one? Okay, so Notre Dame, right? And I think that we did kind of touch on them. Their strength of schedule is 82nd. If they lose to USC at the end of this season, they should be out. They should be out. But will they be out? I don't know. I don't know, because there would be, I guess, 10-2. So at 10-2, there's other, 10-2 SEC teams. I don't know, man. But if they do drop out, that would be huge for us, because then maybe the SEC gets in 5 teams, and that makes us feel a lot better. So I'm going to take this down, and I'm actually I'm going to go on ahead and pull up the games from this weekend that's going to matter the most to Tennessee and to these rankings. We're going to get to that. So let me pull that up for y'all real quick. But these are all very excellent questions, and thank y'all for chiming in. I know that some of y'all might be at work. I hope that y'all don't get in trouble, but we just wanted to do this one live because we probably won't talk too much more about UTEP this week. So let me go ahead and pause this before YouTube takes this video down. All right, so Indiana versus Ohio State this weekend. So Ohio State's ranked by 13.5 points. The game's going to be in Columbus. I don't ever want to cheer for the daggone Buckeyes, ever. But in this one, I will. I hope that they absolutely blow out Indiana. Again, I don't know how much of a difference that's going to make. Now, we've got Miami versus Wake Forest. That game doesn't have a whole lot of – it could have some implications. Obviously, if Miami loses, I don't think that they will. What we want, though, I believe, is for Miami. Well, they've already lost one at this point. So I think that if they lose in the ACC championship, that they could be out and whoever beats them could make it in. I think that the ACC only gets in one team. So that's fine. Now, Ole Miss versus Florida, y'all, this game is going to be huge. This one's going to be huge because Florida can beat Ole Miss. They match up well versus Ole Miss. And right now, Ole Miss is favored by 10.5 points. They are coming off of a bye. The game's going to be in Gainesville. Them coming off of a bye, that's the part that, kind of worries me some. But I think that Florida has shown that their defense can step up. They've got a good pass rush. I think that they're pretty good with their coverages. But they've got a freshman quarterback, Lagway, that's looked better and better. He's going to be a problem for us moving forward, inside of this system that he's starting to get comfortable with. But we're not going to look ahead to next season. We're going to focus on this season. We need for Florida to play with confidence and to win this ball game. Okay, we need that to happen. If that happens, Tennessee almost is guaranteed, as long as we went out, to make it to the college football playoffs. And that's really, what I'm looking forward to. Now, SMU versus Virginia, obviously if SMU loses, that could have some implications. It's the same thing that we talked about with the U. Whoever ends up is only going to be one team that I think makes it out of the ACC because everyone's at least lost one game, and their conference is not strong. Georgia's playing UMass. It'd be huge if Georgia could lose. We don't see that happening. We already know about our Volunteers. Now, this is another really big one, Kentucky versus Texas. So I don't think that this is going to happen because the game's going to be in Austin. I think Kentucky, they might be coming off of a bye. Probably doesn't matter that much. They're going to have to try to muddy this game up as much as possible, man. Run the football. I think that they can have a little bit of success doing that versus Texas. But Texas is a pretty well-balanced team. Sark doesn't usually choke in games like this. He chokes versus, better competition. So they're going to come out and just play a very basic offense, which I think is all Texas really needs to do to beat most teams, is just be more basic. Kind of the same thing I feel like with Tennessee this season. But, if Kentucky does beat Texas, man, that's a great thing for our Tennessee Volunteers. Penn State versus Minnesota. Man, the game is going to be at Minnesota. I don't really see Minnesota having much of a chance versus Penn State, but maybe they can keep it close. If Penn State loses, then now at this point, you can't be too obvious with the fact that you're being a homer for the Big Ten. If they lose, they should be out of the daggone playoff race, period, point blank. So that would be huge, but I don't see that happening. I think that Penn State should roll in that game. BYU versus Arizona State. It would be good if Arizona State can somehow pull this one off. They're actually favored, which is crazy. They're actually favored by 3. If they pull this one off, that's big. But I still think that the Big 12 only gets in one, whoever ends up winning their conference championship. Colorado, I'm starting to feel more and more like Colorado might be that team to make it from the Big 12 because they've looked good, man, especially versus Big 12 level of competition. They're doing some nice things. I'm definitely proud of Coach Prime. I'm proud of their entire team. I know a lot of folks hate Colorado. I'm not one of those Colorado haters. I want to see them do well. So if he can turn that team around and make it to the playoffs, I'd be happy with that. Are there a team that I would worry about with Tennessee playing them? Not at all. Again, I think that the Big 12 only gets in one. So that still kind of opens the door for maybe the SEC to get in 5 teams, which Tennessee might need. Clemson's not going to lose to the Citadel. We all know that. Pitt's already lost 3 games. They're pretty much out of it. Louisville, they're pretty much out of it. Doesn't too much matter right there. It might make things because I think that Pitt beat Clemson, if I'm not mistaken, maybe. Or did Clemson beat Pitt? I don't know. But either way, that's going to hurt some of the strength of schedules. If Louisville does win that game, it's going to hurt some of the ACC strength of schedules, which would be good for Tennessee. South Carolina coming up next weekend, they will be playing Clemson. That'll be good kind of like down the line because I think that they will beat Clemson. We've got Mizzou versus Mississippi State. That game doesn't really matter. Notre Dame versus Army. I don't think that Notre Dame's going to struggle versus Army. They look good versus Navy. Very similar offenses. I think they both run the wing tee. If Army could even keep that game close, that would be huge. But like we said, for Notre Dame, them versus USC, the final game of the season, if they fall right there, they should be out. Will they be out? We don't know. Now, if Boise State could lose to Wyoming, boy, oh boy. And Wyoming is a really bad team. But if that happens, they're done. So now all of a sudden, that group of 5 team that, will, I think that there is a guaranteed bid for the group of 5, maybe. I don't know, but they wouldn't be ranked as high, so they wouldn't be bumping down teams like Tennessee, who I think will end up being ranked higher than them. Okay. Washington State, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah, that doesn't really mean a whole lot for us. Alabama versus Oklahoma, I hate to say, but we kind of need for Alabama to keep on winning just for our strength of schedule and record and all that type of stuff. But it wouldn't, it could be good either way. It's just all in how you look at it. I don't care, I don't know if it's going to hurt us that much if they lose to Oklahoma. That might actually help us out too, because we did beat Oklahoma. So maybe that would be a good thing for us. A&M versus Auburn. Definitely need Auburn to win this game. Man, if Vandy could somehow beat LSU, that would be huge for us, because that would make our strength of schedule, a lot better. That game's going to be in Baton Rouge. What time is it going to be? Did I have a time up here yet? Oh, dang, it's going to be a night game in Baton Rouge. I think that Vandy could probably make that one close. Even if they make it close, that could be good for us. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I think Kansas State, they should be out of the Big 12 race unless something happens with Colorado and with BYU. But it looks like those are the 2 front-runner teams in the Big 12. So that's pretty much how that looks. Now, tonight, I'm going to tell y'all, I think the Tennessee should be ranked somewhere between 9 and 11, something like that. So we should, or, maybe between 9 and 12. So we should kind of still be within that playoff hunt. And if we went out, then we should still get in, because teams will lose that might be ranked ahead of us. Will A&M be ranked ahead of Tennessee? That's going to be interesting. I know that Georgia dropped 9 spots. They were ranked number 3, and Ole Miss was ranked number 16 when they lost. Miami, when they lost, they were ranked number 4, and they lost to a team that wasn't even ranked. They only dropped, is that right? I think they were ranked number 4. I think that they only dropped 4 spots. So Tennessee should be somewhere, I think that we should drop from 7 to, at worst about 12. But even at 12, with Boise State, being a highly ranked conference champion at this point, how the brackets work, they would get in over us, I think, at this point, if I'm not mistaken. I could be off on that. But Tennessee's still in the hunt, okay? That's the whole point. We're still in the hunt. We just got to win, and we got to do it convincingly. Let me see, what else do I have right here? From Green Wave says Vols are strong. That's Nebraska is weak this year. Yeah. But even still, though, Colorado, so the whole thing with them being in the Big 12 is about them just winning that conference. And I think that they will, or I think that they can end up winning that conference. So that's going to be fine for them. But Rhonda Leverett says, thanks for the input. Go Vols. Thank y'all so much. That's going to be it. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up as well. But thank y'all so much. Please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And we will see y'all a little bit later on tonight, because we will be talking. And you know what? We might also do that live, but we will be talking about the CFP rankings and where Tennessee sits at. But thank y'all. We'll see y'all a little bit later on. Peace.